Hey guys, it's Rachel with Be Healed Dog Training, and this is looking at about halfway through week 2 of Kronk being on the property, living in the woods behind my house. I'm still working on catching him. So if you saw the last video update, then you saw my attempt at getting a collar and leash on him, my failed attempt. And so it's pretty much at that point that I realized, hello, dog trainer. You know, I was thinking I have to be able to get a collar and leash on this dog so that I can train him. Really, I had that backwards. I needed to train him to be able to get collar and leash on the dog. So, you know, kind of a backup and punt moment. And decided we need to just take a step back and actually clicker condition him to the collar and leash and get him comfortable with it, and maybe even looking forward to seeing it. So that's what you're going to see. I took a video where I was actually explaining as I was doing it what we were working on, so you're going to see me clicker conditioning him to the collar and leash here. So last night got Kronk conditioned to the clicker so that he knows when he hears the click he's going to get food, and now what I'm starting to do is I hold out an empty hand, and if he touches it he gets a click and food. And that's the only way he eats, except for finding little spilled kibbles on the ground. But if he wants to eat, he has to boop my hand. Right now, all I'm looking for is a quick boop with his nose. And, you know, if he gets real wigged out at first, then I might start by, okay, he's close, so I'll go ahead and give a click and food and kind of get that engagement back. Hold out the hand. Let him clean up the kibbles first, because that's what he's going to focus on. I've actually been trying to do smaller handfuls of kibbles, A, so that I have more repetitions, and B, so that I spill less of it. He's really, ideally, I want him eating everything from my hand. So click. There's a few kibbles left in there that time, but I'll give him a couple more. You can see I have the leash on my hand. No tricks. I'm not trying to just, like, sneak him close and then throw the leash on. I want him used to seeing that leash. I want him used to it being there. The next step will be holding the leash up and clicking for being near the leash, clicking for me touching him with the leash, clicking for him touching the leash, trying to get him to put his head through the leash. It's a whole process here. Come on, big guy. And he does this. Like, he'll go through some repetitions and then he'll move away, and it's like he has to just kind of process everything. He's done this even before we started all of this. Like, the first time that I pet him, he was all excited about it, and he's like, yeah, pets, pets, and then suddenly he just stopped and disappeared around the house and didn't come back for a couple minutes. And it's like he just has to process everything. So click, food. Again, all of my movements with him, I want to be very purposeful. I'm not trying to be sneaky or stealthy. Sometimes I'll just kind of reach for him and click. And I just want to be really open about what I'm doing. Hey buddy, I'm going to reach and touch you. Touch, click, food. Obviously we've worked up to this point. It used to be if I reached for him like that at all, pshoo, he'd be gone. So just lots of repetition. We're going to be serenaded by Mr. Heckles, my rooster. He's a little upset that I haven't let them out of the coop yet. So empty hand. Ideally I'd like for him to come touch it with his nose. We were doing some of this last night where I'd put my hand up like this. Click, food. So just tons of repetitions. And I just have his daily kibble in my pouch here. And again, this is how he eats every meal. Just through repetitions of, you gotta work for it, and, you know, if you don't want to come near me, that's fine, but you're not gonna get this meal. So, now I didn't start off this way, obviously. Hey buddy. You know, I started off leaving food out and just being near him while he ate, and worked up from there. But now we're at the point where he's much more comfortable with me. I might have to stop this because it's starting to rain and I don't want my phone getting wet. But now we've gotten to a point where I've been able to, like, really pet him and play with him and whatnot, but he's still just, he's very, very aware of where I am and what I'm doing. I did try to sneak the leash on him before. Ain't gonna work with this dog. At least I don't have the reflexes for it. You have to be super, super fast. And twice I've tried, twice I've failed. Both times were a step back in the trust department. So it took me a little too long to realize, you know what, I'm just going to have to clicker train this dog. I'm just going to have to clicker train him. And that's how we're going to get the leash on. So now I'm going to start holding the leash up and just put my hand near him and click in food. And just let him go, oh, hey, that rope thing you got, that's pretty cool. Which he already knows it's pretty cool to an extent because he's already chewed one of these up that I left outside. My fault. But yeah, I just want him comfortable with me handling it. So even though he's not super close right now, just the fact that I held it up, click in food. Start with that. I'm not going to start with trying to touch him right now. Tons of repetition. So that he starts to go, huh, every time you pick up that rope, it's awesome. And I'm going to click for that because he came and sniffed it on his own. Definitely anytime the dog makes an advance on their own, I want to reward that for sure. Click. And even something like that, I don't know that that was necessarily on purpose. He was sniffing the ground and he happened to get close to it. I'm still going to click and reward. I still want him to go, holy crap, every time I touch that rope, I get food. That's pretty sweet. I'm going to pick it up and click. And again, I know I mentioned this in my last clicker video. I expect him to balk. I expect him to back up. I'm not going to freak out if he does. Even if he were to like suddenly take off into the woods, so what? That's fine. He'll be back. We're at a point now, I know he'll be back. Touch and click. I don't know how well you can hear the clicker in this video. I'm using a very soft clicker because he was quite afraid of this initially. I like having a soft clicker. I also have your typical loud, obnoxious clicker, which I love. But I like having a soft clicker for things like this. You can also use a pin, a clicky pin. That works great as a soft clicker. Touching the leash, I'm going to click and give him food. I'm also giving him less food than I was before. Initially, I was giving him big ol' handfuls to kind of keep him hanging out, and plus, I didn't have very many repetitions before he would be done and take off. But now we've gotten to a point where I just do, you trying to get into my magic bag? That's not how it works. But now I'm trying to do just as many repetitions as I can. So little tiny handfuls, a couple of kibbles at a time. I'm going to pick up my leash again. Now I'm going to hold it up a little longer. And he checked it out on his own. Very good. Right now, because he's hesitant, if he makes even one step towards it, that'll be enough for me to click and give food. Come here, pal. Alright, so I'm just going to drop it, entice him a little bit with a handful. And he touched it, so I'll click for that. Pick it up and click. If you watch this whole video, you should get bored. That's the point. I'm not trying to rush things. I want it to be boring and no big deal. There we go. Took a step towards it on his own, so that's going to get a click in food. So again, just the more we work through this, the higher the expectation gets. And anytime I change things or add something new, my expectation will be less, if that makes sense. So, you know, if I'm going to try and touch him with this and he runs back, I'm still going to give him a treat for that. Still going to click and reward it. I love how much he's snuffling that, so I'm going to click and reward that. But then after we do lots of repetitions with me touching him with this, then I'm going to start expecting him to hang out before I click. So remember, the click means that's when you get food. So I don't click unless I'm ready to give a reward for it. Click means, boom, you're getting paid. You see, he's kind of interested, kind of thoughtful. Not too sure about it, but not freaked out. Hey, buddy. So now what I'm going to do is hold it up with my one hand, entice with the other. Try and get him to stand close to it while I'm holding it up. Good job. And I also want to be comfortable moving it up and down. I want him comfortable with me moving it up and down, because when it's time to put it on his neck, I'm going to be moving it. So I can also get a handful of food, a bigger handful this time, and just click as he eats, and I move this leash towards him. And just over and over, repetitions. So again, with this being new, me moving the leash towards him, initially I'm doing that while he eats, but then I'll expect to do it, click, and food. I'm just making this a game. Good job. So that time he didn't back away at all. That was awesome. And he actually kind of air scented is subtle, so hopefully you could see that in the video. But he did air scent just a little bit, kind of sniffing at it, like, oh, what is this thing? I would much rather him be curious than afraid. Come on, big guy. Yeah, big floof. I'm calling him the big tease. He's such a big tease. So again, just kind of move it towards his face. I'm being very direct about it. Move it towards you, but you get a click in food. Very good. That time I held it up a little bit longer and he reached to sniff it, which is awesome. I'll click because he took a teeny little half step towards me. Any bit of progress right now. And then of course the next step will be for me to hold it in the same hand, reach, touch. Love that. Very good. And we'll just move on from there. So he is almost done with his breakfast. Come on, big guy. That's horse food. They're not going to share. Ah, very good. Very good. And do you have any idea how tempting it is just to try and like pop that over his head? But I ain't gonna do it. Learn my lesson. I want to have slipped this over his head and taken it off several times before I try to actually put it on him and tighten it up. So that's gonna be the goal, is to have him putting his head through this loop several times and me draping it on his neck and without him bolting. And the first couple times I do that, he probably will bolt, but I'm not gonna be trying to cinch it up at that point. Because again, with him in this particular case, I'm not in a rush anymore. I mean, I kind of am because he's chewing up all my shit, but he's not going anywhere, and he's pretty comfortable being here. I'm gonna click for touching him. It's nice. I can kind of watch him in the camera and see him. Good job. I don't have to look at him. I can just be like, hey, buddy, what's up? Ooh. And then two, the next step with getting his head through the hole is to kind of lure him with a little bit of food. Don't know if we'll do that right now or not, but we'll give it a shot. Let's see. What I'm going to do is if he gets a little closer or touches it, or pays it there, I'll click and then see if he'll take food. There we go. So his nose is basically through it. It's hard to tell from that angle, but his nose kind of passed through it a little bit. Good job. So I'm going to repeat, hold it up, click. But now if you want your reward, you got to get close to it. There you go, buddy. Got like 2 or 3 handfuls left. So right now the rope's touching his nose, which is awesome. Good job, buddy. Good. And you can see I'm just touching him with the rope, click, and giving him food. Alright, bud. Last handful here. Make it a good one. Good job. Good job. Good boy. So that's breakfast and dinner. Probably won't be able to show you dinner because it's pretty dark when I feed him. But this is where we are now. So if you've been keeping track of him and interested in learning about his process, just trying to share that with you guys. All right, Kronk. See you later. You go get my breakfast.